So I would like to introduce our next speaker. He is a campaign manager of Essere Animali, which is an organization befriended by Open Cages, and we actually did one investigation on horse transport together. Claudio has also an amazing achievement of co-funding 2 campaigns against beagle breeders, the Morini beagle breeders and Grinnell beagle breeders, who actually breed those animals to be used in animal laboratories. And they actually managed to rescue over 3,000 animals during these campaigns. So please, let's welcome Claudio Pomo from Essere Animali, Italy.
Thank you very much. So today I want to talk about actions and ideas behind a successful organization. So I would like to start with a question to you. So try to think for a few seconds in your mind. How would you define a successful campaign or a successful organization? I'm sure that most of you have been thinking about the organization or the campaign that saves the biggest number of animals. Or many of you have thought about the campaign that reaches more people or that mobilizes more people. So I would like to show what I think is an effective and a successful organization, and I will show a picture, which is this iconic picture of a demo we did that ended up in a daylight liberation of beagles during this demo at the Grinnell farm. This campaign managed to close down the farm and save 3,000 beagles. So if you think about the big numbers, well, 3,000 dogs is a lot, of course, but it's not comparable to other numbers that sometimes other campaigns manage to save, like a campaign to ban fur farming in Netherlands, for example. So it's not just the number of animals that makes a difference. That defines a successful campaign or successful organization, but it's also much more. It's in this case what I think really made us successful was that we simply reached our goal. So we had this goal to close down this place, and we reached it. We reached this goal, but I would like to say that this campaign was successful even more because we managed to reach even 2 more goals that I will explain you later that actually we had in mind and were much bigger maybe than saving these animals and closing down this place. But I would like also to tell you about something in the past. Maybe the older people among you know this campaign was the shock campaign against HLS in the UK. It became a worldwide campaign. It mobilized people all over the world. This campaign didn't manage to reach the goal to close down the place, HLS. The lab is still open, it's still active. So how many animals did they save? We cannot know. Maybe some less experiments have been made. We don't know. But it didn't save that many animals. But it was considered at the moment the most successful and the most effective campaign ever in the animal rights movement because it was able to reach one after the other target and that they were having in the campaign, and there were this very successful way of organizing and campaigning. And so they didn't reach that goal that was the main goal, but they reached other goals that were like, for example, if you want to see, I will show you later, but I want to say before, this campaign was stopped by repression, actually, because when repression came, all the activists were arrested, and actually the sad thing is nobody cared, except for us, except for the small number of animal rights activists and dedicated activists that were really supportive, but the big numbers, the public opinion didn't care about it. So what is the situation when we do campaigns or build an organization? There is us, and what can we do? We can directly try to save animals or help animals, or we can try to influence society and change this society, and we can empower and give influence on activists. So there is different works, and they are all, of course, they are all connected. So the Grinnell campaign that I was mentioning before for the beagles, we managed to save the animals, close down the farm. That was our main goal, but we managed to influence heavily society. We had politicians supporting us, we had laws coming after our campaign, and we had the media supporting us, and the whole public opinion in Italy, millions and millions of people were with us, not only in theory, they were also coming to demos, normal people, they were coming on the streets with us. So we were really having an influence that we can still see some influence now after years on society. And then we were also empowering activists. We were motivating them. We had a new movement that came out after that campaign. And if we think about the Shaq campaign, of course, it didn't succeed there, but it did succeed there as empowering activists and making us more determined and having new groups springing up all around the world, doing demos or campaigns. And actually, I began doing my first pressure campaign after the Shaq campaign, learning from them. And the first campaign we founded in 2002 was the one against Morini beagle breeders. And I'm sorry for the low quality of the picture. It was not a high quality at the time. And this was shot by the ALF in 2002. And this farm was, for 40 years, the main breeder for vivisection in Italy. We managed to close it after quite a lot of years. And we were a crazy bunch of young and angry and anarchist people that were really trying to close down this family-owned farm. And we managed. After 7 years, we got all the dogs and also some of the rodents. We had altogether 1,000 animals. And this is, I'm showing you today is also part my story, part the story of the Italian movement, and part the story of what I'm doing now, the organization I'm part of at the moment. So this is the very beginning for me about campaigning with a goal, with a clear goal. And our goal was to remember that the animals, like closing down the place, saving the animals. We were really focused on that. And then we were crazy. We were prepared to do whatever to save the animals and close down that place. And we didn't care about society. We made the same mistake that the Shaq campaign did. They didn't care about society. We didn't care. We didn't care about what the media said. And when repression came, we also didn't have much support, much public support. We got people with broken bones at demos and so on. And nobody cared. Nobody talked about it. So this is one lesson we learned. And we managed actually to close the place many years later, a few years later after we stopped doing actually demos. Somebody else entered in with our support doing some lobby campaign to get the animals out, because the activist campaign was broken by repression actually. And then we started doing, in 2004, 2005, we were very active for a few years with the antifur campaign. Everybody in Europe was doing them against department stores, selling fur items. And we were quite successful. We were every weekend in front of the stores, week after week after week, year after year. And so, you know, it was a successful way of campaigning at the time, but it was not suitable to go on for years, because at least it was very good to get some successes when we got them quickly. But when the campaign went on, it was very frustrating for activists to come out every week at the same place and to think about themselves standing there maybe for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or maybe more. There is campaigns going on for very many years on around the world. And so we began losing people. We began losing, you know, also our determination and also our energies. We were less determined, less happy, let's say, to go to the demos. And it was quite boring in the end because you do always the same stuff. And this campaign stopped because of many issues, internal problems, and so on. But we also got some lessons here, because we were also here focusing only on the companies and forcing them to stop selling the fur items, and we didn't care about society, we didn't care about communicating through the media and shaming this company through the media or using other tactics, for example. And this campaign disbanded more or less in 2010, and it was then a few of us decided to start the Grinnell campaign. This is the day then when we got the first dog coming out legally from the police giving it to us when the place was closed. And this was a big change for our campaigning method, because we started realizing that we should not focus only on the company and directly saving the animals, but it should really influence society. We should use this power that when we can have thousands, not thousands, but millions of people embracing our ideas and following our campaign. When we have this power, we can get wherever we want, more or less. So this was a big, really big game changer in Italy for campaigning and so on. And more or less when it was at the end of this campaign, when we were on the peak, some of us also decided, okay, it's time to start a long-term project, not only campaigns that have got goals and then they end up, and so we started our first real organization. At the moment, it was 2 split groups into different cities. Now we work under the same name, and we created this organization that is called, sorry, we lost one. It's called Essere Animali. It means to be animals. It's a very simple name, but we like it. And for the first time, we created our long-term project, and for the first time, our main issue, our main focus was on influencing and changing society. We want to change millions of people's attitudes about animals. We don't want just to save a few animals from a farm or close down one place. These are just side projects or minor goals, but we want to create a focus. Our focus is to change the whole of society. So our main tactics, it was 2011, we started bringing investigations in Italy along with other organizations, and it was desperately needed because everybody was using these kind of pictures of animals or videos that were coming from other parts of the world. So, everybody of you knows why investigations are important. And it was really important also for us because we learned a lot by doing them. So when you change tactics, when you try something new, when you do that, try to do that professionally, you learn a lot also yourself. It was very important also for us. We started working with the media because we didn't want to have a video just going on social media or YouTube. We didn't want to reach some thousand people on YouTube. We really want to reach the Italian population. So that's why we started working with the media. Of course, it was a new thing also for us. At first, it was not easy. Then we started building our reputation, and then now, just 4 years later, it's some of the most important media in the country that call us and ask us to come with us inside farms or to prepare some stuff together or have our footage. So that's really worked. And just this year, to tell you why I think it is very important to do this kind of work and to influence society, and what we are trying to do in a few years, what we managed to achieve. This year alone, in the last 6 months of this year, we got some coverage of our footage, and we worked with some very, very important TV shows, the most important ones, I will say, and we managed to cover what could be a broadcast of more than 10 million people watching our footage. Was it on TV news or was it on an hour-long special program all with our investigation footage? So I think it's quite big picture and big numbers. So I think our main goal of influencing society and letting people think about the animals is really, we are working on it actually. And then there is this picture. It's not really beautiful, but it's me on TV, and this is a small TV. It's not something that someone should brag about. It's a regional TV in the area where I work and where I live. But the thing that is unique about this that I am the author of this program, and this program is a monthly program that goes out every first weekend every month. And we have 1.5 hours where we speak, me and this girl, she is vegetarian, almost vegan. We speak for 1.5 hours and we talk about all animal topics. We show footage and we talk about veganism, show vegan recipes. And it's my program, our organization program. And so I think it's a step forward. And we have up to 200,000 people watching it for a new thing. It's not that bad, actually. So you see the difference. I was a young anarchist fighting with the police in front of farms, and now I'm an author of a TV show. And so we did also investigations on mink farms, and nobody had seen mink farms in Italy before, almost nobody actually, and even the activists, they didn't know much about these places being still operating in the country, so we built up this campaign to ban fur farming, especially mink farming. It's the only kind of fur farms that are present in the country, and we are doing demos, and we are using all kinds of tactics, and we didn't reach the goal yet after 3 years, but we reached a lot of steps because we managed to stop a lot of new farms from opening. So that was very important. If we would not step in 2013, now there will be the double, the number of the farms will be doubled in Italy. So I think it was quite successful on that way. And we did also some civil disobedience on this campaign. This is an action we did last October at the fur farm, at the mink farm in Modena, and it got a lot of coverage. And this is also to say that sometimes you need to do different stuff. Also, just showing images and footage, it's not enough. You need to create stories when you want to go on the media, want to reach people. So civil disobedience is a very good way to create stories and telling your story about what's going on in these farms and showing the animals again on the media to a lot of people. So this is just one more tactic, one of our campaigns. And one of the campaigns we are doing now is against this sale of foie gras. Foie gras has been, the production of foie gras in Italy has been banned for quite a few years now. So what we are saying, we did an investigation in French farms producing foie gras. We got a lot of coverage on Italian media, and we started the campaign that is called Out of the Shelves. We want foie gras out of the shelves of all supermarkets. And we think it's quite easy, actually, not that difficult at least, because foie gras is produced elsewhere. It's already banned in Italy. So we got also, in a few months, we already had 3 victories, which are very important, especially this one. It's a company called Italy. Some of you maybe know them. They are considered by Forbes one of the 25 most disruptive and important brands in the world. Even if you don't know it, for those people that know who they are, they're considered so important. So, and they stopped after this flash mob or demo and another one, they entered into talks with us and they decided to stop selling it. And then one other thing we do is open rescues. Open rescues are important because they bring the animals again in front of the people, of your supporters, of anybody. Because sometimes when you do activism, you do demos or leafleting or whatever, there is you and the other people, there is you and the companies. We need always to bring the animals back at the center. Sometimes rescuing, even if it's just a few of them, it makes really a difference for your storytelling, for your communication, and to show again that the animals are really at the core of what we are doing every day. And then you can also tell stories, as I was saying, about the animals that you rescued. Like these hens have been saved from an enriched cages battery farm, and you can see they have no feathers, and a few months later you can show a new video with the animals that are completely different, they look completely different animals, healthy and happy. So it's a very, very good way to tell stories and to make people empathize with animals. And so this was just a very quick roundup of what we are doing. But I would like to show what I think are 6 basic steps to build a successful organization or successful campaign. So this is just my opinion, of course, and everybody else can have different opinions. And in my experience, these are very, very important basics, actually. And the first one is visualize. So we were talking about goals. You need to have a goal. You need to understand and think clearly about what your goal is. But you also need to visualize. You know that visualizing is thinking about what will be, and also thinking about how you see yourself in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, visualizing how your organization will be in a few years, how your campaign will be evolved in a few years. And all psychologists, they say that people that have the ability of visualizing, they are more effective than people that do not do that. So you can learn, you can try and do that. Close your eyes and think with your mind and just visualize and see what you will be in the future or where you want to be really in the future. Because if you start an organization, you really you must be thinking about what you want to achieve in a few years, not just starting it just to do something. And so step 2 is strategy. And of course, strategy, I like to say that it's like a road, because we have a goal, it's where we want to go and get. Strategy is like the road that can bring us there. And so you have to decide which road you want to take. There is many, many roads that can be taken. You have to be clever and decide. You can try and make a mistake, just discuss and get another strategy, but everybody learns from mistakes. I think everything I've learned, everything I have obtained in my life is because of mistakes I made. So everything you see from all the speakers in these days is lessons learned by mistake. So don't be afraid to try something. So strategy is very important. Just find out your own. It can take time, but find it out. And then there is tactics. If you know the road you want to take, then you need to know how you will go on this road, which vehicle you need. Do you want to go fast? Do you want to go slow? Do you want to go with a kind of different vehicle? So, tactics are very, very different. You don't have to mistake tactics with strategy. It's quite different. And tactics are, for example, you can use civil disobedience, you can use direct action, you can use leafleting, you can use lobbying, and you can use whatever you want when you have the right strategy beforehand. You can then use the right tactic and try. And the perfect tactic doesn't exist, actually. It fits, the best tactic is the one that fits best in the strategy that you have, or in the situation, the political situation you have, the movement you have in your country, the situation of your organization. So don't ask me which is the perfect tactic, because nobody knows. And my answer will be probably the best tactic is use of different tactics altogether. So definitely this is the best way to do activism, I think. And step 4 is fundraise. You saw before another, if you were here, a very interesting speech. Fundraising is essential, because otherwise you cannot buy any vehicle to go on this road towards our goal. And I say this because myself, I made a big mistake. Me and my friends, the other activists, we never put enough effort on fundraising. We always thought, okay, we can do this on a low budget. We don't care. We are very good at doing stuff with low budget. The Grinnell campaign was very, very low budget. We didn't have any money, but we had hundreds of thousands of people that were supporting us. We could have become the richest organization in the country in a couple of years. Not to become rich, but to become successful, to have more funds and to finance new projects, and we didn't care. We went straight just for the campaign, and we wanted it to be very easy and simple, and we didn't think about it, so it was one of our mistakes. Also with Essere Animali, we never thought at the beginning that much about fundraising. We were okay with what we had, and it's something that we regret now, because we just started focusing on this in the last couple of years, and we see the difference, because we now have much bigger projects. If you can think having more money, you can think about bigger projects and more ambitious projects than you can have with just a few euros. But this is, okay, very basic, and communication is essential, because you can do the best action, you can do the best campaign, you can do the best rescue of an animal ever in the world, but if nobody knows, I don't say it's useless, because if you saved an animal, it's not. But if you did an action, a civil disobedience action, and nobody knows, well, it's quite useless, actually. But even if it is communicating who you are, what your mission is, and what your goal is, you need to have a very good and clever communication. This is the base, and I think it's very, very important. I am obsessed with good communication and effective communication, and I think that it's very important for us, for the ones that decide to make activism a priority in their lives, to learn how to be effective also in communication. If we want to spread veganism, we need to know how this is perceived better by people, how to communicate better. There is a lot of authors and speakers and books that are very interesting on the subject, and I will not go into it, but this one really basic stuff that I think it's very, very important and makes a difference for your campaigning and your organization. Communication is the key, actually. And then step 6 is stamina. Like I said in the introduction, the short summary of this presentation was determination is not enough, of course, because if you're determined and you can go out every week doing demos, every week protesting something, but if you don't have a clear goal, a clear strategy, you don't have a clear tactics, and you do not communicate well, you don't do anything. But you cannot do anything. The thing is also on the other way around. You cannot do well all the stuff that we said before if you don't have the right determination. If you do activism as a hobby, okay, you can go to a demo, take part and help someone. But if you want to build a campaign, run an organization, and be really successful and be part of the change of the world, then you really need to be determined and dedicated. And most of the people that are really changing the world, not only for animals, not only for this movement, are the people that are committed to this, to the movement that they work for. So it's people that do not do that just once in a month, but people that think about it every day, because also the strategies, the ideas, the new thing you can do, whatever, they come out because you always think about what you want to do. You always think about how to save the animals. And so this is just simple basics, and of course there is no time to go into details, and this is just what I consider a small part of really what can help you start thinking about to be successful. And as I said before, to be successful means also to have a clear goal, and this is the first step. Just think about your clear goal and think about achievable goals. I've seen so many campaigners having really non-achievable goals, like closing down the biggest lab in Europe, and it's the first ever campaign. I'm not meaning it's Shack, I mean Italian campaigners, and the first time they organize something in their life, and they want to close down the biggest place and the biggest company. So this is not the right way to think about successful organization and campaign. And I would like to close with a short anecdote of my life, because I said this is what I showed you is part of my life. There is much more actually, but very briefly I showed you a small change through my life. And last year I went to visit my parents at the seaside, where they have a house, where I've been since I was a child. And I was going around with the bike in the small town, and I saw this graffiti on the wall. And it read, change the world, not your dreams. So this means you have always to try and find out ways to change this world and never adapt to this world, never adapt your dreams to this world. The funny thing is, I realized the handwriting, and I remembered I had written that myself 16 years before when I was a kid. And then I started thinking, and I said, okay, I wrote this when I was a young, very passionate and angry guy, and I was into anarchism and all these things. What did I do in these 16 years? Did I change my dreams, or did I change the world? And I think that I stayed true to my dreams, and I did my best to change the world, actually. But I changed a lot of completely what I was doing to change the world, because I learned by errors, I learned by mistakes, and I learned by situations that can change, and repression comes, and effective tactics cannot be effective forever. And so I changed a lot, but I never changed my dream. So if I was to write the same graffiti here for you, I will not write the same phrase, but I will write actually this one, which is, change your tactics, but never your dreams. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for a very inspirational lecture. So any questions? Come on, guys. I know you have them. Okay, I have fun, of course. So you've talked a lot about building a story. I was wondering what kind of story actually gets you the most coverage that then affected in the trust of the media, and that they are now coming to you for more coverage. So,
well, if you are meaning about investigations also, I think the investigation that got more coverage that changed us, at least the perception about our organization, was the horse slaughter and transport investigation. We did also with the help of Otvarte Kalatki. And because we knew that it could be like that, because horses are perceived as companion animals, everybody becomes, I think it's a scandal to slaughter horses. And we used that actually knowing that it would work like this. And it was the first slaughterhouse footage we released. And we decided it would be like this because we thought maybe a slaughterhouse footage about pigs or other animals, maybe most people will not watch it or will not be moved by it. And horses created such a scandal, people were really angry about it, but in the meantime, we got a lot of really positive feedback by meat eaters that were angry about it and decided to become vegan after seeing horse slaughter. So it was for us a way to get, I make also always this example about, it was the same with the Grinnell beagles. We used the small dog puppies to reach millions of Italians and get them, to mobilize them. And we turned a lot of them into vegans and activists. So we try to do the same with farm animals using the horses, which are a way, to open a window in the mind of people.
Thanks.
Thanks. Just further to what you've just said, how did you turn those people from caring about the horse issue or the puppy issue into something like going vegan or becoming an activist? Because I think that's a tactic, a really clever one to use to get them on maybe something that's easier ground. But then, I mean, obviously not all the details, but how do you tend to then convert them to the bigger steps that we want?
So you want some details on how to do that? Well, actually, I don't know. Well, we hoped that people would start thinking. And one thing was, you heard about it before with Mahi, and we used the same tactics. We had the petition against horse slaughter, and people signing the petition would enter in our newsletter. And then through that, we educated them about all other issues. So it was not, we could have done that better, but it was, now I will do that more precisely with more segmented newsletters for the people, but at the time, anyway, I think it worked. We met quite a few people that came to us wherever and said us, your video changed my life. Now I'm an activist. I was a meat eater before. And it was just what many radical activists were telling us, and you're asking for horses, and that is quite welfarist, and you don't care about the other animals. But for us, it was a strategy, You had a question.
It was just about, in terms of, I'm remembering the chart that you saying about society.
Yeah.
And also be an activist. And you also showed a picture from the ALF investigation as well. Do you still think that there is a place for people who do covert action? Or do you think that moving towards changing society is more effective?
Well, I was a very, very strong supporter of that kind of direct action in the past. I'm a bit less now, but I'm not saying that it's useless. I'm saying that, as you said, clever action is important because it saves animals. But I would say that in the long term, changing society and influencing society maybe can create more changes. And what I wanted to show, and maybe I didn't go into details, the difference between the Shaq campaign trying to influence society was with threat, being aggressive and say, okay, we can smash everything. The financial system was scared about the Shaq campaign, and the government was too. And while that can last for a short period of time, while positive change, influencing them even with demos or pressure, but in a less aggressive way, less direct action way, and less threatening and balaclava way, can create long-term changes that I think are more important. That doesn't mean that saving lives or we do open rescues now, which is the same thing. But as I said, it's a very good way to not only to save directly animals and to touch them. That means a lot to you as an activist, because once you go in a farm, once you go there for filming or saving animals, it changes your life forever. And you will remember that. If you want to be a committed activist, if you want to do that, please try and go into a farm at least once in your life.
Thanks. I want to ask, what do you think about like street-level leafleting, outreach activism? Does it work? Is it necessary, or you prefer this campaign-based method? Does it work at all, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's effective and it works, and I think it's just different projects. We didn't focus that much on that at the moment, but we are thinking about projects for the next year about leafleting and outreach. We are also doing outreach. I just showed very briefly what we are doing, but we are doing a lot of outreach events. We organized the biggest vegan festival in Italy, and we do stalls and that kind of stuff. We don't do leafleting as a very professional leafleting as vegan outreach is doing like very often, but I think it's very effective, and it should be combined with other tactics. By itself, like what vegan outreach and other groups are doing is very, very important, but if you will take off all the rest of the movement, by itself it could not be enough. So the tactics and the projects and the focuses must be different, and maybe there is different organizations doing them, or maybe the same one has got different goals.
Okay, and the last question. Okay. Just give the mic.
Yeah, thank you. You've been talking a lot about shutting down companies, and did they that lead to decrease in demand, or you should shut down, for example, one fur shop, and there will be another one in place of that after some time, or?
Sorry, I didn't get perfectly the first part of the question. About the shut campaign.
Did the shutting down companies lead to decrease in demand?
Well, I don't know, actually. You mean sorry, I didn't get it perfectly, if the shut campaign managed to decrease the amount of animals used, you mean?
Yes, for example, you're shutting down the vivisection farm, animals farm,
yeah.
and does it lead to the decrease in?
Yeah, I got it now. Sorry, and I think actually it didn't decrease that much the number of animals used. In Italy, there is a declining number of animals used in research every year, and very slow. But what it created was now there is no dog breeding farm in Italy. There were two, and now the law banned breeding dogs, cats, and primates in Italy for research, and it's the first country in the world doing that, and this is a side effect, a result of the campaign. And so this is a first step, because of course they can still have dogs coming from abroad, but it's much expensive now to get them by airplane from the US, and we also had some leaked documents, and when there were some dogs coming from Switzerland, and we could stop the arrival of the trucks with the dogs before they could get into the labs. So, when you create a portion of your country becomes like this, you can ban something, it becomes more difficult for them to work. And maybe it had an effect, but we do not know that much.
Okay, I have seen one more person, I don't know. Okay.
I was wondering whether you have the experience that media is being saturated in some sense with pictures of factory farms or slaughter. I mean, how many years can you show more or less the same kind? How do you react to this?
Yes, I think, as I said before, tactics are not going to work forever. So even if, when we thought about pressure campaigns in a way a few years ago, we thought it would go on forever, and it didn't work 5 years after. And even with investigations, I'm sure that the same kind of effectiveness we have now will never be the same in a short time period. In Italy, it's quite new. Maybe in Austria, you had that footage coming on the media much earlier, so you have more experience than me on that. But I'm also sure, we are aware that soon there will be no interest, or at least no big interest about that. And you always have to think about new kind of images and new kind of approaches, and maybe trying to work in different ways. We are brainstorming already to prepare for the future. We do not know exactly what will work. But as I said, we always have to find new ways to get footage. Maybe you create some new story that is not directly the footage, and the footage comes along with the new story. So like we did with civil disobedience at the mink farm, it was again a way to get the images of minks in the media, but it was not just saying, hey, we have some images, and they were the same of the previous year, actually. But creating the story, we managed to get the footage. But we have to think to the future, and actually, I'm quite sure that in some countries, the media will be saturated with investigations. So we have to find out new ways to work.
Okay, there was one more question somewhere. Okay.
And thank you for a wonderful presentation. I wonder if you do these open rescues like with really open faces, and have you had some legal issues after that, some farmers suing you or something?
Not actually, like almost all groups doing open rescues in the world, we do not disclose the location where the animals have been taken from, and we try to not find out where they disappear. So if it is 7 hens coming out from a 50,000 farm, they will never find out. So that's quite easy.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, thank you very much, Claudio. And